Hello.
Hey, so sorry it's been a while. There's been plenty.
I'm not sick anymore. Really grateful to have my lungs back.
Dusty is fully recovered. Oh, you might hear the ambulance outside right now. One is passing. That's not sure if we mentioned that yet.
Yeah, we did.
The only downside of this apartment is we are about a block from a building that deploys ambulances. There are quite a few of those throughout the city, as you might imagine, and they can deploy anytime, day or night. It's usually like every few hours. We'll hear that. Unfortunately, that's every few hours in the middle of the night too.
Even through earplugs. We are using earplugs, but still.
But we're adjusting. We can mostly sleep through it. Sometimes not. It's a big city, There's stuff.
We've mostly adjusted by going to bed around 9 and getting up around 7:30, basically.
Yeah, or earlier.
Or earlier in his case.
Mm-hmm. So we just become early birds, and that helps for sure. See what else we've pushed forward on a lot of the issues we had with the local government, which it's just like bureaucratic stuff where. Oh, so I'm officially working for a Japanese company, although in reality they're just employing me on behalf of my own American company. Part of that is the Japanese employer is giving health insurance for both myself and Dusty. However, as it turned out, we couldn't get the health insurance for Dusty at first.
Because we were living in sin.
So the local government wanted to see our original marriage certificate, the one that was in the US. We had no reason to think we should bring it.
Because the immigration accepted a scanned photocopy of it.
Yeah, when we were dealing with immigration, they accepted just scans of lots of different documents, but then we get here. So a big part of how people interact with the government in Japan is the local government, where they expect every person to tell them where they're living, who's living with them, and what the status is, and to update that if they ever move. Because unlike the US, the government likes to know who's living in the city and where, in case they need to, reach those people.
Or evacuate in case of an emergency.
Yeah. Basically it's a pretty good system, but there, if you're a foreigner, there are certain traps you can fall into that probably would never have occurred to the people who were born here. And one of them was, turns out we need the original marriage certificate. They will not take a copy. They will not take a scan. So we got that mailed to us.
Mom and Dad mailed it into us.
Yeah, they mailed it to us from the US. It got here, thank God. And we were able to get that updated.
I became a wife.
So now there's a piece of paper they issue that's very important called the Juminkyo, and
your resident record.
Resident record is the best translation. And it lists, who's living with you. And it used to just call Dusty a cohabitant, and now it says wife.
Which means now I can get health insurance through his company.
Yes, which is currently being processed, and that's a good thing. Partially because of the health insurance, and partially because... So one of the fascinating things here is how much, if you apply for an apartment, the extent to which they check on everything. In America, it's if you have the money, you're ushered right in. When you apply for an apartment in the US, all they really care is can you pay. If you really wanted to, you could apply on Monday and move in on Tuesday, if assuming you had the cash right there. Here it's they want to know are you a good, reliable kind of person who has all his ducks in a row. So they're going to check do you have all the right documents, do you and everyone who's going to live with you have health insurance. To an American eye, it's why does your apartment even care about that? But here it's how would you say are you a good person who's well integrated into society, is putting it roughly. So because of my unusual situation, they actually approved me. A lot of people don't get approved the first time they try. Foreigners. But I did, and part of that was I have to get back. The part of the deal was I would get the documents I didn't have then, get my wife enrolled in health insurance
as soon as humanly
possible, and get back to them to prove that I've done it. And they have been calling my realtor once or twice a week since we moved in to check whether that's happened or not. So again, like they're really on top of stuff. Like bureaucrats in the U.S., like a lot of them just don't care, and that's part of what makes dealing with bureaucracy in the U.S. easier. Is like a lot of people just don't care, and you can use that to your advantage.
Well, unless you need something from the bureaucracy, and then that makes it difficult. The inverse is true
Yes,
here.
yes. Like in the U.S., like if you need them to do something, it might be like pulling teeth. But if you need them to do nothing, that's kind of going to be the default. Here, it's the opposite. Like they're going to do all the things with a great show of enthusiasm. But if you prefer they do nothing in a particular case, you're
bad.
You're not going to get that. Oh, but bottom line is with some finagling, we're moving things forward. So I think we've been in Japan 2 months now, and we've been pretty...
2 months. Feels like forever, and we just got here.
Yeah, we arrived on October 8th. It is currently December 6th. So basically 2 months. The first month was mostly just looking for an apartment and getting approved. Second month has been like getting moved in and getting more bureaucratic stuff aligned and just adjusting to life here, I guess. Oh, so one of the things that was part of that is we've been pretty well integrated with a church. It's called Mustard Seed, and it's part of a network that has been trying to plant churches in various countries, not just Japan, where there's not a lot of Christianity yet. And they aim to change that.
This is one of the countries that has no background whatsoever in even like cultural Christianity. So teaching really from the ground up.
And that's one of the things that's interesting that is done differently here is like if you're going to run a church here, you have to, and they do have what they call the First Steps program, where they teach classes like apart from the usual service in Chinese, Japanese, and English, where Chinese is the other kind of dominant non-Japanese language that's spoken here.
The dominant immigration group is basically from China and then from America, I think.
Well, yeah, and like English encompasses a lot more than America. It's kind of the lingua franca of the modern era.
Use a French word to describe.
Well, that's what that term means. Like,
Yeah.
so I think I used it correctly.
I think you did.
Oh yeah, so in those 3 languages, they teach an introduction about like for people who know absolutely nothing about Christianity or Judaism that preceded it or the Bible, and introduce you to all the fundamentals, which I think is a great thing. It's, since I didn't grow up with a Christian background, it's something I got from InterVarsity Christian Fellowship during my college days. But here, they got to do what they can. Oh, another observation about church is that, here comes another ambulance. They're not usually this. So you can hear it quite loudly the windows do a lot to help. All the windows are, quite modern, double paned, help a lot, but not perfect.
But that's why we moved into a room with 1 window instead of 2.
So that helps even more.